Hey, welcome to Jeff Fuller Interviews. Glad you are with us. You can certainly find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm a basketball junkie. I love basketball. I do love sports, and once in a while, we'll get the occasional musician on here. We have a chef that's coming on. Chef Dusty was gracious enough to come on as well. And so it's just a lot of fun, something to do, a little bit of a hobby during this quarantine time. But as I said, I'm a basketball junkie, and I'm so excited to have Wayne Lafley joining. So, Wayne, how are you?
I'm good, Jeff. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm surviving this quarantine. You just mentioned off air that you're doing something with Full Package Athletics of trying to make 1 million jump shots. What's going on?
Yeah, so it's a little project. My mentor and brother, Steve Pratt, who you interviewed last week, which was a great interview, by the way. You guys were terrific together. It's a little project he put together where between his organization, my organization, and a few of our friends out there in the basketball world, we're trying to get our players to basically make 1 million shots in May. And
Wow.
layups, form shooting, jump shooting, catch and shoots, however you want to do it. We all went out there and challenged our kids and our programs to get those shots up, and it's the response has been between his club and my club has been absolutely amazing. We're 3/4 of the way there already, with whatever 10 days or so to go. We should definitely get there. But the response has been just awesome. I mean, we got kids out there making 3,000, 4,000 shots in a day. And it's been so cool to see it. The response from our families has been probably the coolest thing, because I've had parents text me and say, my kid's outside shooting in the rain. I didn't think I'd ever see that. Like, because we live in a world before the pandemic where, things were so organized for kids, and they were used to going inside to a gym or whatever, or if it was raining, they weren't going to go shoot. But, now we're in this pandemic, and we're all trying to find our way as we go through it. And so this is kind of one of the things we threw out to our kids. And, it's 30 degrees outside one day, they're out there shooting. It's raining, they're out there shooting. And it's just been amazing to see it.
Well, that's awesome that we're having some nice weather coming out this week. So that's really good. But
Now, no excuses to not make double the shots now.
That's a fact. I do enjoy the fact that you put on several pictures on your Instagram page. It's just Wayne Lafley on Instagram. Could you just talk about social media, how that's changed from when we grew up to now? Do you think it's a good thing, or what are your cautions that you would talk to about Instagram, Twitter, social media?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's a blessing and a curse. So it's a blessing in the sense that you get to share your journey with people, and so that's a really cool thing. You get to you share moments of your life and your successes and even your failures, and I think that's okay to do that. I think we're all human, and to want to share our lives with people, I think that's great. And social media has given us that platform to share our lives, whether it's personal or it's athletic or whatever, music wise, whatever. So I think that's great. On the flip side of it, that's the blessing side. On the curse side, everybody's got a camera, and everything you do is, can be scrutinized. And we all know there's plenty of people out there who love to scrutinize, whether you're an adult or a kid. Like, there's people out there who will take their shots at you, and when you mess up and post the wrong things, it's going to get scrutinized by people. And so one of the things we like to talk to our players about, and even me, for example, with my stepkids and stuff, is be smart about what you're posting, because it's once it's out there, it's out there. And it may not always be a positive, and you got to be careful about those things, and you got to be careful about who you're allowing onto your Instagram. And especially we tell our kids, our players, with college coaches, they're gonna follow you because they want to see what kind of kid you are outside of seeing you play on the court. And if you're posting the wrong things, you can lose some opportunities. And if you're posting the right things, maybe it helps your opportunity. So you got to be careful.
Yeah, certainly true. There's a lot of consequences and nothing ever is hidden. It's not like you wrote a love letter in high school, then you could just throw it away or burn it back in our day. Now it's out there. Hey, Lone Wolf Athletics, there's so many spots I want to get to, but you just mentioned filming. I asked a coach this past season, how do you teach vision? So I'm just going to ask you, for a point guard, for any player, how do you teach or coach vision?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can. Obviously, the best players are kind of born with it a little bit. The greats who can really see the floor. I think for a lot of those guys, it's just instinctual. Guys or gals, it's instinctual. You just kind of, some people have it and some people don't. I do think, like, if you're trying to teach it, like, you got to be willing to break it down in practices. When a
Yeah.
kid makes the wrong read, you got to be able to teach it to them and stop it and say, hey, or use film to go back and show them, like, hey, you made this pass, but you should have made this one. Who was open here versus who? Why do we want to give them the ball there versus give them the ball in this situation? So you got to be, I think you can help kids learn to have vision on the court. But you got to be willing to stop it, practices, teach. You got to be willing to have conversations, in timeouts or after games. You got to be able to show them film and show them where they've made the mistakes and seeing the floor. And then also on the flip side of that, when they do start to make the right reads, you got to enforce that. There's got to be positives with it where, the kids, like, they made the right read and they saw the right pass. And then you're like, you got to be able to say to that kid, hey, that was what we want. That was perfect. And reinforce those things. And so there is a teaching aspect to it. But as you know, Jeff, as a basketball player, the truly great ones, they're just kind of born with it. Like the Magic Johnsons of the world
Yeah.
and stuff. They just see it before everybody else does.
Oh, that's so true. And I'll chalk this up. My daughter says too many times I ask questions and then I answer them. And knowing that you are a good coach, or that we think alike, I said that the best way to teach vision, if it doesn't come naturally, is to film, because then you can't go wrong because you can pause and look at the different angles. But you're right. I think that's one of the most difficult things to teach. Lone Wolf Athletics, you guys have been going for a while. Let me bring up this slide if I can. Yeah, here's your website. And you guys do a lot of different player development clinics. And I want to wrap a couple questions into one. How did this begin from a kid that played at People's Academy to what it is now? And what is it that you want to emphasize most with your clinics and with Lone Wolf Athletics overall?
Yeah, well, the start of it kind of came. So after college, I moved to Chicago for a year and lived with Steve Pratt. And I was working for his company, Full Package Athletics, and kind of doing player development there, camps and clinics. And then I got word my mother was sick. My father had called me and said my mother was sick. We found out later on she had cancer and it was terminal. So I came back to Vermont to be with my family, and basically, I just, the year in Chicago was great, but I miss Vermont. I'm a Vermonter, and there's something about Vermont that just always kind of pulls me back. And I started kind of working with some kids here or there, and I said, you know what? There's an avenue here. There's an avenue. There's a need for player development. Kids want to be in the gym. They want to learn. And it kind of started with a kid named Evan Labrizzi, who she was a player at Essex High School, and I kind of started working with her, and she was a good player, and she became an all-state player like after spending time with me, and whether that's because of anything I did or not, who knows, but other kids started to kind of come into the mix. Alyssa Sheftick, who played at UVM, and Jill McDonald, who played at UNH, all started to kind of train with me. And it kind of just took off from there, and word kind of spread. And, so I was doing individuals, and all of a sudden we were doing small camps. And then all of a sudden we were running summer camps with 70, 80 kids. So it's been a great journey to kind of see it come along after 16 years now. As far as our emphasis, We want basketball to be fun. We want you to understand that, to be good, it takes work. It's just not going to happen. But we want to give kids an avenue that if you want to chase dreams and you want to be the best basketball player you can be, we want to be, we want to be a place where you can come and do that and chase your dreams. I always tell people, they say, oh, it must be cool being a basketball coach and that's what you do. And I say it's great, but what's even better is I'm a dream chaser. I help kids chase dreams, and to me that's the best part of what I do, especially when a kid achieves that dream. You can see the smile on their face. It's just it makes everything worthwhile for you as a coach. It makes everything worthwhile for them as a player.
No, I certainly agree with that. And I often say that Vermont does not necessarily grow the best players, but it does develop the best coaches for those best players across the country. And it's just amazing to see and watch.
We have some pretty good players, too. We may not have NBA players and WNBA players, but we got some pretty good players that have helped a lot of colleges win a lot of games.
Well, with that, you look at just the desire that students have in being the coach or being the person that helps feed them that right information to take in and to evaluate. When you came in, and this is no disrespect to you, but you are not a 6'8" former Division I basketball player. How do you develop that credibility and now you have that trust with the kids, but how did you start gaining that trust with those athletes and their parents so they would pay you, so you would really develop them and take them to that next level?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I wasn't a 6'8" Division I player. I didn't play professionally any place. I didn't have, an NBA background or a Division I background or whatever. I think it was just honesty, being honest with the kid. This is what I see you need to work on. This is what we're going to work on together. And I really feel like if you work on this, you're going to become a better player. Yeah. And then it's a matter of putting the time in and working on it. And then the kid has success and becomes a better player, and they believe in what you're teaching them. And then they become hungry for more. And then they start taking, more initiative in their own development. Well, what next? What should we work on next? I want to do this. I want to do this better, and helping them just kind of understanding their own games, and where they need to develop those, and just being truthful and honest with them. And that may mean, telling them things they don't want to hear. But I think, kids and parents, for the most part, the ones that aren't crazy, so to speak, I guess, they appreciate the honesty, and they appreciate you being forthright with them. But I think they also appreciate that, hey, we're on this journey together. Like, I'm going to help you be the best player you can be. If you trust me, let's get to work. And, when they start having success, it usually means that they want to work more, and they want to work harder, and they want to spend more time in the gym, which is great. And like I said, it started with a handful of kids, and then it's become what it's become now, with kids coming from all over Vermont and upstate New York and northern New Hampshire to be a part of what we do. And I think one of the reasons for that is, kids in our program get to develop and play with other like-minded kids. Yeah. Kids who are passionate about being in the gym. They get to come in and they know they're going to practice or they're going to train with somebody else who has the same ambitions they do. And there's something special about that.
Oh, there really is. A friend of mine actually said that I've never had an original thought in my life. I just take that original thought and I learn how to apply it to my life or to people that I'm coaching and working with. And I thought that was a great point as well. And I share with every guest, I think, basketball guest, that I was told, I think I'm gaining weight. My C always goes down when I do these interviews. Sorry about that.
Too many snacks during this pandemic.
That's right. I had a coach that said, Jeff, you're going to be a great coach one day because you know what to do. You just can't do it. And I think being able to read the potential in these players is so important and find out the hunger for them. I just want to talk about your program, Lone Wolf Athletics at AAU side. Here's a picture behind me the different players you've coached, the teammates. Can you just talk about the importance of playing together, having chemistry, even if you have a coach or a teammate that you don't get along with?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we've always said is, you don't have to be best friends with your teammates. I mean, every team has kids who are closer with each other than some other kids on the team. I think we've all had that experience as players, that we may have a best friend on the team or someone who becomes our best friend, and the other kids, we hang out with on the road, but maybe we're not spending every day together or whatever. We've never really asked kids to sit there and say, well, you got to be best friends with everybody on your team, but you certainly have to respect them and work with them and appreciate that their goals are the same as your goals. And those goals should be team first. Because I've always said to our kids, when the team, has success, individual success usually comes along with it. And I found that over my years to be true. The teams that are most invested in each other over the years have probably had the most individual success when it comes to, awards later on in high school or college scholarships or whatever it is. So, but, we ask our kids every day, be appreciative of it. And we talk about it in practice. What did you notice about somebody today that was a positive? Talk to us about your teammate. Hey, if your teammate threw you a great pass or did something that was good, make sure you're enforcing it, because it lets them know that you're noticing what they're doing. You're taking the time to tell them that. It shows that you care about, that what they're doing is a positive. And it reinforces that to that player and that teammate, and they're probably going to keep doing it. and
Yeah,
and
no,
we like that. We like the, doing those positives and reinforcing them. And I always think when players are accountable and with each other, and they're positive with each other, and they're noticing the work ethic and stuff of their teammates, that goes way further than anything a coach can say or do.
definitely. And Wayne, this might come across as a gotcha question. It would be the only one that will put you on the hot seat, but it is not specific to you. AAU basketball, I feel, and I'm very opinionated, in Vermont can be a money grab, and it reinforces bad habits just because some of the tournaments level of play is not as I think AAU was when I grew up. For
Mm.
you, developing athletes, performing and playing at higher levels, how important is AAU sports, specifically the sport of basketball, for you, but for other students within the state of Vermont?
Well, I think for us, it's the AAU side of it, or we play in a lot of NCAA sanctioned events that aren't even AAU events. They're sanctioned by the NCAA, so college coaches can come watch. So for us, those events are important just from an exposure piece. It's a chance for our kids to take the things we've been working on and go out there and show college coaches that they've made progress, and they can play at a high level against other high level teams. And we go to certain events every year across the country because we know the best teams are going to be there, and we know there's going to be college coaches, and it's a chance for our kids to gain exposure, but it's a chance for us to, as individual players and as a team, to kind of, figure out where we're at in the greater scheme of things. And we come back to the drawing board all the time with players and with our teams and say, boy, we got to get this kid to do this a little bit better to help us on, or as a team, we got to do this a little bit better. And sometimes we come back and say, boy, we got to scrap, this and change this. And it's a constant work in progress for both the player and our teams. But that's part of the journey. That's part of the fun part about it, is you work on something, and then you go out there, at least for us, and you play other high level teams that, and if it's working, if you're making those progresses and that progression. And if you're not, well, then we got to figure it out for both the player and the team, because ultimately we want both to have success, the team and the player.
Definitely. To push on that once more or a little bit further, do you think more kids should be playing just summer league, rec league, something organized, not necessarily AAU, or what are the benefits of outside of your typical season playing that same sport on a team like AAU, Mini Metro? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a basketball guy, so I think, anytime a kid has a ball in their hand, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Play as much as you want to play. If that's, I think players should play in summer leagues. They should play with their high school teams and summer tournament, summer team events that they have. Different summer leagues and things like that, and go play pickup. I tell kids all the time, go play 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 5-on-5. Like, go play basketball. If you're a basketball
Yeah.
player, go play basketball. I mean, that's what I did as a kid, whether that was summer leagues, pickup, I'd search out a game wherever I could, much like I'm sure you did. And, if that meant getting in my car on a Saturday morning and driving from Morrisville, Vermont to South Park in Burlington to play in a pickup game, I was willing to do it because I just wanted to play.
Yeah.
So I think if you're a player and you love to play, go play. Like, AAU is great because you get, if you get in the right situation, and again, everything is about trying to find the right situation. So like you said, there's AAU teams out there across the country. They're money grabs. That's what they're trying to do. And, but there's legitimate programs out there, that are doing great stuff with
Yeah.
kids as far as developing them and helping them get exposure and things like that. And, so you got to find the right situations on things, and go play in summer leagues and find, figure out what your role is with your team, and then how can you expand it. And the summer is a great place to do that. Why wait till the fall when practice starts to try and figure out what your role is? Like, play in a summer league, figure out your role, and then, hey coach, like, this is great, but how can I expand it? And so players should go play, without a doubt. No matter what the sport is. If you're a soccer kid, go play soccer. Baseball, go play baseball. Like, enjoy it. You're young. It ends one day.
Yeah, and I remember when I was in high school, I think it was a junior, maybe a senior, I was asked to play on an AAU basketball team, and it was a lot of money. And my parents said, I went to a small Division IV high school in Vermont. My parents said politely, but they said, go play against the Johnson State kids, get your butt kicked, and realize like just how to play. And so that's what we did. And you play against better competition and you learn, oh, I thought I was a scorer. Now I'm an inbounder and a screen setter. But it's so much
rounds out
fun.
Your game a little bit.
It's so much fun just to get out and play. You talked about it before, and I just want to hit on that too. I think it's important in Vermont, where we have the luxury, if you are athletic, you can play multiple sports. Yep. How important is it for kids to take advantage of playing other sports that are offered to them?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you just said, if you're a good athlete in Vermont, you can be a 3-sport star a lot of times, whatever those sports you choose to make them. I think it's great. Like, you'll get one high school experience. So make the most of that. Like, we've never told a kid in our program, don't play a sport in high school because it takes you away from basketball. Like, I honestly believe you should go out and do things and have these experiences. But I also believe if you're a basketball player, it shouldn't take you away from basketball, right? Like, if you're gonna play soccer in the fall, well, that's great. Play soccer in the fall, but you can still manage to pick up a basketball, and it may not be every day, but if you love the game and you want to get better at it, you're going to come in the gym and train. You're going to go to open gyms. You're going to play 1-on-1 with your brother or your sister or whatever it is. You're still going to pick up a ball and work on your game if you love that sport. And and obviously for us it's basketball, but kids are, I think kids are gonna, I tell kids all the time, just put down the phone a little more, and you'll find out that you'll have a little more time during your day to do more multiple things that are meaningful.
Definitely. Wayne Lafley, Lone Wolf Athletics. We're going to wrap up in a little bit, but when you see this picture behind me, and we're going to close where
I got the same hat on.
with Steve Pratt the other day. Talk to me about the first time you met Steve and the influence, the impact he's had on your life.
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, Steve has been a mentor for me for like 33 years, and it's gone way past that. I mean, he's family. He's my brother. I mean, my 16-month-old son, his middle name is Steven. So that should tell you a little bit about, how I feel about Steve. My first time meeting Steve, I was actually, I think, 12 years old, and there was a knock on my door. And I opened the door, and here's Steve, hat backwards, t-shirt, plaid shorts, which was his typical attire back in those days. And he said, "Hey, your dad sent me to come get you. We're going to play pickup at Johnson State. Grab your basketball shoes." Well, my dad didn't call and tell me any of this. My dad at the time worked at the college, and him and Steve had struck up a friendship. And, during that friendship, my dad had said to Steve, "My son really loves basketball." And Steve's like, "Well, you know what? Like, I'll grab him and we'll play some basketball." And sure enough, Steve just showed up at my door. So I took a leap of faith. Obviously, probably not the smartest move at the time, not really knowing the guy. I took a leap of faith. I grabbed my basketball shoes. I jumped in the car. And that was the first time I ever met Steve. We went and played pickup, and afterwards we grabbed some sandwiches, I think. And, he drove me back home, and he's like, "I'll be back on Sunday. We're playing again on Sunday. I'll be back on Sunday." And that was kind of the start of it. And 33 years later, he really is probably the person I trust the most in my life. Good things, bad things. He's usually my first call. And we've laughed a lot together. We've cried a lot together. I think we share a similar passion in wanting to help players and being in the gym with kids. And for us, it's basketball is more about life lessons and working with people and trying to instill things in people and help them grow and find their journey. And I think that's, him and I view it as that's our journey.
Yeah.
Our journey is to help people on their journey. And we just happen to use basketball as that means. And he's a really special guy, as you saw, just the passion in which he talks about his people.
Yeah.
It's very rare. It's very rare in today's world that you have somebody who, just feels as strong as he does about people he loves.
It's definitely a reminder for us that we are not to live simply for ourselves, but there's so much to offer other people if we'll make time to put down what we want for the benefit of others. If you could just capsulize just your journey from playing at People's Academy in Morrisville, then you were an assistant coach volunteer. Steve shared at the Vermont Frost Thieves. Could you just talk about that journey from just being a kid? I talked to Will Voigt. It was awesome, just reminiscing about Cabot High School and then professional basketball in the state of Vermont. What was it like for you attending PA, but then being an assistant coach for the back-to-back ABA Vermont Frost Thieves?
Yeah, I mean, I was really lucky because I had a fantastic high school coach in Bob Rowe. Bob would run Saturday morning programs for little kids. And I can remember being a little kid, my mother signing me up for it and just going in the gym for the first time and just right away falling in love with the game. And then to kind of grow up and play for a guy like Bob, who was a tremendous teacher of the game, a tremendous teacher of team first, and just, really instilling a lot of values as what sports can teach you. And so I knew as a high school player that I wanted to be a basketball coach. I couldn't imagine myself doing anything different. So, I kind of went after college to work with Steve. And then, as I said before, I came back and I started Lone Wolf. And Will and I have known each other since we were probably 15. Steve was coaching at Cabot. I would go to play Cabot to play pickup. Will and I, became really good friends. Steve and him were tight. We just kind of tagged along with Steve all the time. And so Will and I developed a friendship. Obviously, Will went off to college and then started having his own experiences as a video coordinator with the Clippers and the Spurs, and kind of doing those things, and then coaching and overseas. And when the Frost Heave job came up, he kind of came back and got the job and came back. And Steve was really the guy who kind of made that all happen. I had the lone wolf stuff, and and Will was trying to get me to come aboard, and there wasn't much money in it, and I said, well, listen, I'm not worried about any money. Like, you're my guy. Like, I just want to help you be successful. So as long as you can be flexible a little bit with my scheduling with the lone wolf stuff, like, I'm on board. Like, I'll do whatever I can to kind of help you. And it was just a great experience. Will and I work really well together. We do a lot of devil's advocate, so to speak, with each other to try and make each other think about, the game of basketball and our players. And it was a really enriching, rewarding experience to spend time with him. He's fantastic. He's one of the smartest minds in the country. And I learned a lot from him, and I learned a lot from those guys. We were lucky enough to win 2 championships in 3 years. And but I learned a lot from Will. I learned a lot from the guys as far as, their competitiveness, their work ethic. And, and so it was a blessing to be a part of that. And it was a lot of fun. And someday somebody, not me, obviously, will hopefully maybe write a book on that and share some of those experiences. But yeah, Steve kind of made all that happen and reconnected Will and I, and just thought we would be great for each other and we'd work well with each other. And that was the case. And, when Will left and got the Bakersfield job in the D League, which is now the NBA G League, yeah. He tried to get me to go. And I thought about it a lot, but I love doing what I'm doing. I love helping kids. I love helping Vermont kids and upstate New York, New Hampshire kids, and helping them, on their journey. That's more meaningful to me than an NBA job or a G League job. Or I think it's my calling and who I am. And when you find what your calling is, you just kind of embrace it and move forward with it.
Well, that's definitely a credit to you. I think about the Frost Heaves. Eric Nelson obviously lives here in Waterbury, great player. His daughter, sophomore for Harwood, was outstanding and just so much fun. But I think of Eric, but I also think of John Bryant, who was so good, personable, but he knew his role and he was comfortable in it. 2 more questions. The second to last question is, how important is it to find the comfort level of who you are, that self-awareness? And when did you come into your own to realize this is who you were and you were comfortable staying in Vermont instead of chasing something that could be perceived as bigger or better?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it just comes with experience and maturity. Like when I was young and first coaching, I think every young coach has these grandiose ideas of what they want out of their coaching, no matter what sport you are. And along the way, you kind of have these experiences that kind of show you what makes you happy. And for me, it's always been about being happy, being happy was helping others. It was never about money or things like that. It was always about, just seeing the joy on people's faces when they have success. And so I just think it comes with maturity and life experience. And, for me, I think I might have understood that earlier than some. I think some are still trying to figure that out, and everybody's journey is different. So yeah, I mean, for me, life experiences and just maturity and coming into my own as a person and realizing what is valuable to me is not going to be valuable to the next person. And that's okay, because it's my life and it's my journey, and I wanted, and this is what I choose to do. And, you spoke earlier about John Bryant, and, I had a chance to see John in the fall at the Sixers training camp. I went down to training camp and spent a day watching them and talking with JB. And I just told him, I always knew JB was going to be a coach. Like, he just had that mentality. He was great with the other guys. He was the glue guy that kept them together. He always asked great questions. He always put in extra work. So, you know, I had a chance to see JB in the fall. I just told him how proud I was of what he's done, and not necessarily just becoming like an assistant with the Sixers, but watching him interact with the guys. Like, you can tell those guys really respect him. They trust him. And that's who JB is. And I'm not surprised by that. And, you know, and JB's still a young guy, and he's going to figure this out as he goes along his journey and what makes him happy and his life experiences. And that's kind of the cool thing about this. Like, you can be a great basketball coach and you can coach in the NBA, or you can coach in the G League, or you can coach overseas, or you can coach in Vermont. You know, that's the beautiful thing, is it's whatever you decide is enriching is your journey, and that's what makes it so special.
Definitely. Quick funny story about JB. You guys had just finished a Frost Thieves practice, and he was one of the last guys going out. I said, "Hey, JB, you 3-point competition?" And he looks at me and he says, "I'm not a 3-point shooter." And I said, "Exactly. That's why I want to shoot against you, so I can say I beat a Frost Thief." And I
Awesome.
think I did. Well, I think I beat him. He might have a different story, recollection, but who knows? Hey, the last question I have for you, Wayne. Thanks again for making so much time and being gracious to us. Life throws struggles and difficulties and disruption, whether it's this COVID-19 pandemic, being quarantined, this new absurd normal that we're trying to walk through. What gets you through? What has gotten you through the struggles of life, the ups and downs, the losses, the heartache, heartbreak of life? What really motivates you to take that next step and continue forward?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's two things. One is my father, who's not with me anymore. He passed away about 4 years ago. But you know, my father was always, you know, he was a Marine when he was younger, and he was always about marching forward in life. Like, what are you gonna do, son? You know, you gonna take it, or are you just gonna figure it out and find a way to move forward? And so with him, it was always about moving forward in life. And no matter, you know, life is not about what knocks you down. Life is about what you do when you get back up. And so, you know, the teachings from him as a young man are a part of it. And then I would say the other part of it is just people, surrounding yourself with good people. I've tried to do that my whole life with, you know, people like Steve Pratt and Will, and you know, some of the people I grew up with are still some of the closest people. You know, one of my coaches is a guy named John McDonough, who I'm extremely close with, and John and I were freshmen in college together, and he met his wife at Johnson State when I was there, and as a freshman, and they're married now, and all his kids have taken part in my program, and John coaches in my program, and our families are close. And you know, and just, you know, collect good people.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm really lucky. I've collected a lot of good people in my life that, you know, they're there for me. You know, my wife Shannon, and her and my stepkids, and our son Luca. You know, if you can't wake up every day and look at them for motivation, like, you know, like, I don't know who you are as a person, because that's me. Every day I wake up and I think of those guys, um and that's motivation to you know, to move forward and try and be the best man I can, and be the best family man I can. And then, you know, just the other people in my life, collect good people. Like, if I can give advice about something in life, collect good people, because they will help you good times and bad times. And that's really important. So my father, and then just collecting good people has kind of helped me get through almost anything.
Well, such a timely reminder, especially when some Vermonters just want to be so independent, but we truly do need each other. I know I said it was the last question, but you said your son Luka Doncic. Is that where you got that name, or is that just kind of coincidence?
Just kind of coincidence. So Shannon and I could not decide on a name. We found out we were having a boy. We couldn't decide on a name. We kicked around. We must have kicked around 300 names, and we were just getting tired of it. And she kind of threw out like Lucas, and I kind of threw out, I don't like Lucas. Like, what about Luca? And she was like, I like Luca. And then I kind of just said to her, done. Let's not discuss it anymore. Let's just go with it. Like leap of faith. Like let's not, So we decided on Luca, and we actually spell it different than Luka Doncic. He's with a K. We spell it with a C. But I get a lot of people who are basketball people who ask me that, like, oh, did you name him after Luka Doncic? And I say, no, it was just best case scenario at the end of the day. Let's not, we got more things to worry about than let's get this name done and move forward.
I guess. Hey, so we need to do a round table. I'll try to bring in Steve, maybe Will, a couple guys. Aaron Hill's coming on the show. And we could just have a big basketball round table. I think that would be a lot of fun. But Wayne, thanks so much for your time today.
No, if you can get that round table together, I would love it. I hope you have a censor button though, because there's some stories there that might need a beep or two, but it'd be well worth the entertainment.
Oh, no doubt. Hey, Wayne Lafley, Lone Wolf Athletics, thanks so much. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, man. And again, Wayne, one of the best. And Steve Pratt, he said that if you had to hire any coach in the state, he would say Wayne Lafley. And with his credibility, with Wayne's personality and experience, he certainly is one. If you're trying to develop your game or be a part of something bigger, better, find out something to do during this quarantine, contact him, lonewolfathletics.com. Another great interview. Thanks so much for joining. James Donaldson joins later this afternoon. 7'2", former Seattle Supersonic, played in the NBA and never took a three-point shot. Going to ask him if he played today, how many he had put up. Anyway, thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks again for tuning in to Jay Fuller Interviews, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. Talk to you later.